Thank you all. I'm not a big fan of podiums, so I'm going to stand in front of the podium. In fact, I'd rather be out there sitting with you, and so we could have a discussion. I too want to echo Bill's sentiments. I want to thank Bowling Green State University. I'd be very, very proud of its search committee, its search process, and these folks have gone above and beyond, a lot of extra time, a lot of extra effort to make it happen. So I want to thank you, Bill, and your colleagues for that process. I also want to thank you all for the opportunity for me to be here today. Very, very excited about it. I want to welcome everybody for taking time out of their busy schedule to come here and listen to what my thoughts might be about the future of Bowling Green State University. I want to thank all the familiar faces I recognize out there from a few years ago when I spent 12 years of my academic career in Northwest Ohio, in the Toledo area. So I see some of you back there. Thanks for coming out. I appreciate the support. Very, very helpful to me. And I really want to do, Pat promised me that he's going to throw a glass at me after about 15 minutes because I really want to answer your questions. So I'm going to try and tell you a little bit about me, a little bit about what I'm thinking. I already got the secrets, half the secrets out of the bag on the screen over here. And then really open it up to your questions and see what the fit can be in terms of my opportunity to be the 11th president of Bowling Green State University. This is an opportunity I'm very, very excited about. I'm 35 years in the business of higher education. As I told one of the groups this morning, I used to tell my mother that I started college in 1970. I haven't left yet. I'm having a good time. And except for 4 years in the Army, it's relatively true. I am a North Dakota boy with an MBA and a PhD from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, 4 years in the United States military. Last duty station was the Pentagon. So if you ever want to share Pentagon five-sided building stories, I'd be happy to do that with you. I got my start in my career at the University of Toledo in the College of Business. My area of expertise is primarily management, business policy, strategy, org behavior. While I was at the University of Toledo, I sought to take every opportunity that I could. Many of you might notice in my vita that it's kind of a non-linear career, that I haven't necessarily just been a department chair, a dean, a vice president, a president, but I've taken a series of opportunities along the way. Had the luxury at the University of Toledo while I was teaching and doing research in the College of Business to also work as an assistant dean and associate dean, associate director of the honors program, associate vice president for student affairs, ultimately dean of the College of Business. I then spent 12 years of my career at what when I arrived was a little-known university out in Idaho. Now is a well-known university out in Idaho called Boise State, and watched the growth and development of that institution during the mid-90s and the early 2000s. At Boise State, I had the pleasure of being the dean of the College of Business there. I was fortunate to be the first vice president for university advancement, and I also took an executive residence, a little over a 2-year hiatus, to go work for the governor of the state of Idaho as his chief policy advisor and chief education advisor. Then I spent 3 years in the California State University system at Cal State Stanislaus, came to, as vice president for advancement, came to Shippensburg University in 2007, and I just began my 5th year as president. We're a regional comprehensive university at Shippensburg, about 8,500 students. We have a College of Business, College of Arts and Sciences, College of Education and Human Services. One of the more recent things we're proud of, we just convinced our Board of Governors to allow us to submit full proposals to begin an engineering program. So we're going to start a Bachelor of Science in Engineering in Computer Engineering, a Bachelor of Science in Engineering in Software Engineering. Of those 8,500 students, about 7,200 are undergrads, about 1,300 are graduate students, and we hope that with some changes in the rules in the state of Pennsylvania, that this fall or in 2012 we will be able to begin offering doctorates, especially the EDD and some professional doctorates. We are having the same challenges in Pennsylvania that you're all having in Ohio. So our $3.5 billion deficit on a $28 billion budget is something our governor is going to talk about next Tuesday. I hope he mentions higher education positively. But we have gone through a series of challenges that have trimmed the educational budget at Shippensburg University to a great degree. We are a residential living and learning campus, about 3,000 students on campus, about 3,000 students that live within walking distance of campus. Very active campus with about, last 4 years, next 4 years, about $350 million worth of construction. So many of the things that I have seen now on the Bowling Green campus are things that we are either going to do or have done. Very excited about this opportunity. For me, it's a next step. It's a little bit bigger university, a few more challenges, but I think I bring to it a unique career that has touched all parts and pieces of the university, from the academic piece to the finance piece to the administrative piece to the fundraising piece. And I've also had the pleasure of stepping outside the university and working for a governor. And when you do that, love it or leave it, you learn a lot. And you learn a lot about how the citizenry of the state thinks about you and how the politicians thinks about higher education. Having said that, tried to keep it simple in 2 slides. What am I thinking about where we should go at Bowling Green State University? By no means is this all-inclusive. By no means is this absolute. By no means is this set in stone. These are some thoughts. I was asked a couple days ago to put some thoughts together about where I thought Bowling Green State University ought to think about going and what are some of the things we ought to have on our radar screen. And what you see is right up here. Number one, Bowling Green State University ought to strive to be a premier undergraduate residential living and learning campus in Ohio, in the Midwest, in the U.S. We ought to be known for that. We're already partly known for that. We ought to be known more for that. People know about the College Student Personnel Program here. They know about the Residence Life Program here. They know about what's going on at Bowling Green, and we need to tell and sell that story. Secondly, in addition to that, we need to have outstanding undergraduate programs with selected centers of excellence, areas of excellence that include our master's programs and our PhD programs. Both academically and non-academically, centers of excellence need to exist. Those of you that have been around here a long time know about Patricia Kane Smith. When I studied in the management department at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, Patricia Kane Smith of the IO Psych department at Bowling Green State University was a legend. She still is a legend in the world of HR, IO Psych, and management. So we need to make sure that people know that. We need to make sure people know we have the only PhD program in photochemical science. We need to make sure that people know that this is a good undergraduate institution to be, and we also need to make sure people know that we have good selected areas of excellence at the master's level and PhD level. How do you do that? One of the things I'd like to see is an emphasis on undergraduate student faculty research programs. One of the things that we can do that I hope prepare our students for graduate programs as well as for jobs, as well as the Peace Corps, as well as life, is to be able to provide them a unique undergraduate student faculty research opportunity as they go here as students. It's good for the faculty, it's good for students, it's great for the resume, it's great for experience. Secondly, we need to have and make sure we emphasize our living and learning facilities and programs. You're in a living and learning facility and programs. It happens to be a social living and learning facility, and that's the student union. Student union needs to be a place to come to. It needs to be comfortable. At the same time, the residence halls. And we need to make sure we talk about residence halls and not dormitories. Dormitories are warehouses. Residence halls are living and learning experiences. Bowling Green needs to be famous for its residence halls, not its dormitories. Thirdly, we need to look, the things I think about in the future are those 4. We really need to think about entrepreneurship. Colleges and universities have been very, very good at educating and training people to go work for somebody else. In fact, we're exceptional at doing that. We had a little downturn in the recession, okay? Many of our students, many of us saw people lose jobs for no performance reason. They are now thinking, how do I develop multiple skill sets, multiple revenue streams, so that when this happens again, and it will happen again, hopefully not as severe, but we will have a downturn in the economy again. How can I be able to work through that? At some point in time, I might want to work for myself. We need to still provide students a wonderful experience that allows them to go work for somebody else, but we need to provide that entrepreneurial strain across colleges so that they have at least some skill set, so at a point in time they discover they want to go work for themselves, they have a knowledge base to do that. Secondly, STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. We need to emphasize that in teacher ed. We need to emphasize that outside of teacher ed. The United States of America is woefully behind the rest of the world. We need to catch up. And we need to make sure that STEM is emphasized across the board. Online instruction. Online instruction is here. It's not going away. We need to make sure that we think about the right ways for online instruction, whether it's a niche add-on program, whether it's a full program, whether it's a certificate. I would go so far as to say I believe that we ought to get to a point where every graduate of Bowling Green State University ought to be required to take at least one online course in order to graduate, so that when they get out of Bowling Green State University, they are ready to get the education that they need through the various forms of technology and delivery when they get into the workplace and when they get into this world that's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And that leads me into international. People say Chindia, people say China, India, people say China, India, Brazil. What did I read? A great quote the other day. If you're 1 in a million in China, there's 1,300 people just like you. Okay? That is a challenge we have to face. I'm not going to stand here and say that China and India and Brazil do everything right. I think we've fallen into that trap. Let's move it all to China, India, and Brazil. We'll get it better, we'll get it better quality, we'll get it for a cheaper cost. I'm not so sure that's true. I'm not so sure a university like Bowling Green State University can't have a couple call centers right off campus to take your calls about your credit card, about your technology, about your cell phone, and have students working, students getting good answers, students getting good experience, and maybe even saving the company dollars and providing opportunities as we do that. We need to get, I'm from Pennsylvania, where people think in Shippensburg, Pennsylvania, if you go to Philadelphia, you've left the country. Okay? I'm sure there are people in Ohio that have never crossed the state line. We need to get people comfortable with going to Canada, going to Mexico, going to Europe, going to Australia, going outside the country and getting the experience, getting the feeling, and getting the feeling that I've had in terms of going international. The best feeling I have of going international is when I go international, I learn. When I come back, I kiss the ground and say my blessings that I'm from the United States of America. Okay? And we need to have people have that experience, have that exposure, because a lot of our students want to go work internationally. We need to continue our facilities master plan success. We've had a lot of success with the construction and the changes. I think we owe it to our students and talking to students. They want new facilities. They want comfortable facilities where they can live and learn. That's important to their college educations. It's important to what they do here. It's important to the campus, and it modernizes the campus. And the other reality of that, ultimately, it saves money. The older the building gets, the more it takes to maintain it. The more we modernize and renovate buildings, the cheaper the energy cost, and the better we can do the job. We also need to revise and complete our academic master plan, our strategic plan. Our vision has to inspire and enhance our role in Ohio. We need to tell and sell that story so we're out there, so people can grasp onto it, so people at the institution know, here's our strategy, here's our mission, here's our vision, here's where we're going. Dear Miami of Ohio, dear Ohio U, we're nipping at your heels. Next slide. Having said that, in doing that, we need to recruit and retain the best faculty, the best staff, and the best students we can, and we need to make sure we look at quality versus quantity. We probably have a dual mission role here at Bowling Green, where we want to improve the profile, we want to attract as talented students as we can, but there are also some at-risk students, there's also some second chance students, there's also some people that really need to come back to school, and we need to develop programs like bridge programs, academic success programs, that allow them to come back, whether it's through our partners at Firelands, whether it's through other partners in the area, so that they can succeed. We obviously, I hope that next one doesn't bother anybody. We need to make sure that if we recruit and retrain the best and the brightest, both in the faculty staff and both on the faculty and staff, we need to make sure we pay them and give them good benefits. We need to make sure people want to stay here. And we need to make sure that we are paying them for the excellent work that they're performing. In the budget scenario, we need to look at those four things. We need to be efficient, we need to be effective, We need to be cost conscious, and we need to review our programs on a regular basis. Program review is all about preventive medicine. You review programs so that you make sure you sustain excellence, and at the same time as the world changes, you can make sure the program changes with you so you all of a sudden don't cut off the world. We need to collaborate. We need to collaborate broadly, not just in Wood County and Lucas County. We need to collaborate through Northwest Ohio. We need to collaborate through our friends at Firelands. We need to collaborate through all of Ohio. We need to collaborate with K-12. We need to collaborate with other higher education institutions so that we can find the areas when 1 + 1 = 3. And as you find those areas, your programs only expand. I would like us to start, this is this is a Bill Ruud, this is Bill Ruud's change for the 21st century. We talk a lot about teaching, research, and service. I would like us to talk about learning, discovery, and engagement. That's the 21st century of higher education. We've always been about learning, we just haven't explained it well to people. Everybody always thought higher ed was an input process. It's really both an input process, an outcome process, and a throughput process. We need to make sure we talk about that from that perspective so that people understand what we're all about. And finally, from a fundraising perspective, we need to continue our athletics and business area fundraising that we've had a lot of great success in. And then we are in the 2nd century of Bowling Green State University. We need to sit down and start planning for how we're going to run that next comprehensive campaign so that we can generate the scholarships, the endowments, the faculty development support, the facility support, the program support. Bottom line is, look at states. States are not running to increase their state appropriation for higher education. States are more and more and more putting the onus on the institutions of higher education to control and manage their own efforts. The more we can do to generate our own dollars through fundraising, grants and contracts, the more control we're going to have over the money, and the more we're going to be able to be less and less dependent on the swings of the world that surrounds us, and more able to do what we're here to do, and that's provide an outstanding educational opportunity for the students that cross our paths every day.